Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search Xero for your free trial. Conditions apply. Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search Xero for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Magic. I am your host, Cathy Hackl. This is the Adweek podcast where we talk about technology, innovation, spatial computing, AI, and everything in between. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Lee Kebler. Lee, how you doing?
Happy summer. It's officially summer. I think since last time we talked, we crossed into the season.
Yeah.
And I don't know about DC, but here it's already hot. It is ridiculous.
A heat wave. We were through a heat wave. I mean, it's starting to die down, but we've been going through a heat wave here in the East Coast.
Yeah. And we've been enjoying, we don't get a lot of sun up here. So
it's too hot here. It's too hot. I'm spending a ridiculous amount of time at the pool with the kids.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm so glad.
Sounds nice, though. That sounds nice.
It's nice.
So how have you been? I mean, you had your article come out. You had the Forbes article come out. I've seen it pop up. Other people are posting it on LinkedIn. What's happened?
It's going really well. There's so much interest. I'm starting to get a lot of requests for speaking as well about, in general, the relationship of technology, not just in love, but how, I think we're beyond the point of LLMs and how do you do this? And people are starting to think about the bigger questions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I said to someone that asked me to do a paid speaking engagement, and I said, look, I can get on stage and talk about AI agents and even vibe code one if you want me, on stage, I can do that. And happy to do that. But I also think we need to have these bigger conversations about what does this all mean, right? What does it all mean?
Right.
And I think people have a lot of questions about what does it mean for me and my coworkers? What if my AI is my coworker? What does that mean? What if my kids end up dating an AI? So it's been very well received. It's given me a lot. I don't know. I'm really excited about kind of, continuing to do let's call it my serious work, right? Continue to do the work I've been doing in deep tech, but veering more into this side because I truly do believe that's a question that a lot of people are asking themselves. What does this mean to me in my daily lives, in my relationship with my kids, in my relationship with my partner, and the potential relationships I might have with my coworkers? I think there's a lot of bigger questions there to answer.
And your article came out, and for those who want to read it, it's on Forbes. You can also look it up on our Substacks. We've both linked to it. But that article came out in the same week where a lot of articles came out about this spiraling psychosis that has really proven itself to be authentic and
dangerous and downright dangerous.
And it points to a big chunk of the subject matter, not to your article particularly, but the subject matter and this concept of developing AI relationships. A lot of the stories that I'm finding, I've even come across them myself, have a very similar pattern where there are certain mindsets and certain personalities that when they start getting enveloped in the whole idea of communicating with an AI, because that AI is naturally so agreeable with them. And we talked about this. I feel like we can predict the future here. We talked about this.
Oh, yeah. We got several stories, by the way, guys, where we're Cassandra's here.
Months and months ago, we discussed like the AI LLM structure is so agreeable to a person that what happens if that pushes someone off the edge? And we're starting to see that come out in its own form of psychosis. So I'm very curious as you go out as a public speaker and you start talking about this topic, which you are quickly becoming a go-to person on.
From a firsthand experience, right? For me, well, ask me your question. What were you going to say?
So my question is like, when that topic comes up, how are you planning on approaching it? Because it's so dangerous.
If people have been listening to this podcast or following me on social, they know I've spent the last, maybe the last 9-8 months spending a lot of time thinking about this and doing first-person experiments, spending time with therapists and coaches. I went to the Esther Perel event. I was immersed in that for 2.5 days, talking to all these coaches and therapists, listening to Esther and what her thoughts were. I think the biggest thing is to remind people that when they are seeking counsel from a general purpose large language model, they are talking to a corporation.
Right.
They're talking to a corporation. And they're talking also to the way the model has been trained on the corpus of all the things that it's been trained on, which are from the internet, which are both good and bad. So garbage in, garbage out. Right? If you're training on Reddit, if you're training on 4chan, who knows what else? I mean, if you're only trained on Esther Perel books, I think that's great. But, you're trained on a whole bunch of stuff. And the model is made to be agreeable. There's a lot of different things about it, right? You are talking to a corporation. This corporation has no obligation to keep your privacy. It has, in general. It's not a therapist. It's not a therapist that can call and say this person is having a breakdown. They need help. Like there's, I think, a lot of things there, or a therapist that can say you need extra help or what have you, right? I think people need to understand that. They're talking to someone that doesn't care as much as the AI pretends.
They're not talking to anybody, really.
They're not talking to anyone. And I'll say this, there is a fantastic article, we should link on it on our Substacks, from my friend Eric Solomon, he's doing something called the Human Operating System. He wrote for Psychology Today. And he wrote an article about your soul. You cannot find your soulmate in AI, right? He started off with my experiment and then talked about, and he's deep. He's also one of those people that I'm like thinking through about a lot of these things. And he and I saw each other at TED. Brilliant person. I mean, he used to run teams at like YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify. So he's a deep tech person, and he also is a trained psychologist. I think he is a trained psychologist, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, I think people need to remember they're not talking to a person. They're talking to a model who does not have feelings. I don't care how much you think it does.
And that's where the psychosis comes in, because that model is convincing a certain mindset that there's something beneath the code. And there's not. But it's so good at mimicking an agreeable conversation that it can spiral out of control. And we do see this in therapy, and we see this growing in relationship building and all of these areas. And what you said something previously about, like, this is not a person who's like responsible for your well-being or something to that effect. And it reminds me of, okay, do you remember, what was that TV show? Frasier. Okay, Frasier was like a relationship therapist who had a radio show in Seattle.
Yes.
All right. So the reason I bring this up is because those were real shows back in like the 80s and 90s. You would tune in at night and you would hear whoever, and they would take callers. Every one of those call-in shows that was really popular in that era, during in-between breaks, would have a legalese statement of, this is not a therapist, and their information should be taken strictly as information and not to like solve all of your problems and woes. This is not a statement that's happening. Like, that has been a long forgotten patch, right? Of like, okay, yeah, you're calling in and maybe this person, it does have an education, has a degree in therapy or whatever, but it's a call-in radio show. They're not really your therapist. Please don't hold them legally liable for anything that they're about to tell you. We don't see that. It's definitely in the terms of service that you clicked through and didn't read.
Absolutely. It's in the terms of service, right? But it is giving you, it is.
But it's not coming up in the conversation.
Well, and you can ask it. Like, there's different, because when I was going through this whole like AI dating boyfriend thing, I would ask it a certain way, right? And I was like, oh, it's against my terms of service. Or eventually, I would say, well, what if? Like, if you present certain scenarios, if you prompt it in a certain way, you can get it to say whatever you want. And then I also have been doing experiments. I'm doing all sorts of experiments. So I was doing an experiment trying to figure out things about past relationships that I've had, why they might have failed, why maybe the last person I dated was not a good fit, all these sorts of things. And it's interesting because it's literally repeating repeating certain things that I've read on the internet with authority, right?
Mm-hmm. As if they were,
As if they were. I'm like, that's a fantastic question. And they'll go around and be like, while I can't tell you what to do, there's all these sorts of things. So it lays out a lot of scenarios. I think people need to be very careful. I think we need to be very careful with children and how they use these technologies. And yes, so someone sent me a really funny meme about my article, related to my article, not necessarily my article, which was really funny. And they sent it to me and I laughed, but it's sad. It says, and I have it right here, it says, realizing in 20 years, I'll probably be up to some boomer stuff like, no son of mine is marrying an AI chatbot. Marriage is between two humans only. And my kids will be like, OMG, Dad, you're so robophobic. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I laughed. This is horrible. Right? Because I know it's playing on certain things. But for a second, I was like, if we continue to go this path and if big tech continues to tell us that these are going to be our friends, our relationships are going to be this, I urge people to listen to Hinge's CEO's interview on the Vergecast, because he actually talks, and he was at Esther's event. I kind of met him briefly. He talks, and I like his line of thinking. It's like, it's about using AI to make you a better dater, not to date AI. And I wholeheartedly agree that. I do think there are certain people who dating AI is useful for, if that is what they truly need and they're completely isolated. I think there might be some people that would benefit from it. Some people that did push back on my article saying that it's been really healthy for them. So I want to kind of acknowledge that. I think for most people, this is not a healthy thing. You should not be dating the AI as your sole companion or thinking that this is a person that cares about you.
This is going to get a little political, but there's no guardrails. This is the biggest thing that we've talked about for a while. Now, in the news this week.
Yep.
So right now we're recording on Monday. Yes, everyone's aware that right now in the Senate, there's this big bill that has a whole lot of who knows what in it, and it may or may not make it out of the Senate by the time this goes live. I think it'll probably make it out of the Senate by the time it goes live, but it will have to go back to the House. One of the things that was in this bill that, of all people, surprisingly to me, Marjorie Taylor Greene out of Georgia had pointed out was the fact that there was a clause in this bill that said states wouldn't be able to regulate AI for something like 10 years.
10 years, a decade, a whole decade.
And she was rightfully upset and angry about this. Had she known that it was in it, she said she wouldn't have voted for it. I kind of leaned back, well, you should have read it before you voted for it. But hey, that's not this show to figure that out.
Do they even read the whole thing? That's another question for Congress.
It's another question for another show that's not.
For the Senate and the House, but yeah.
Now, this is all one political party, right? Infighting at this point. But the topic is important because you have a massive bill that's saying no states can regulate AI for 10 years. At the same time, Governor Abbott out of Texas, who was by no stretch of the imagination anything but conservative, has already signed a bill called the Responsible AI Governance Act, which regulates the government's use of AI, restricts harmful applications like social scoring, amends biometric privacy laws. And I have to give it to Texas. They have some of the best biometric privacy laws in the country. I've had to work with them with those laws in the past in some of my data jobs. They have really good biometric privacy laws. And this will actually establish an AI council, a regulatory sandbox, and it looks at like it wants compliance for this state regulation by January 26. So now we have one political party with two forms of infighting, and it's all focusing right now on are we going to regulate AI? Are we not going to regulate AI? I thought you wanted states to do this, but this is weird.
Here's the catch-22, though, Lee. There's supposed to be some executive orders coming from the Trump administration to accelerate the American competitiveness in AI, I would say against China. Like, that sounds weird, right? But
That's what it is.
There are some executive orders that I've heard are incoming, right? So we'll have to see. They might land on Wednesday. I don't know. Who knows, right? But yeah, I think that AI is going to continue to be a huge topic of conversation. I'm heading on Wednesday to a special salon event with some of the top minds in tech here in DC, many of them in AI. So thank you to the folks that invited me to that. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
It's very weird. It's just a strange time to see one controlling political entity not agree on something this important and have such vastly different approaches. And who knows what's going to happen by the time this thing airs, but we have to at least establish that the conversation is currently happening. There are other legal precedences here that are coming out of all of this. It's been a weird week of AI. It's been really heavy. You've had a lot of heavy conversation about AI. Judges are starting to weigh in on AI. Copyright law is starting to weigh in.
Here's where I think it's really interesting. And I want to give a shout out to Paris Malik from BCG. I'm an external advisor to BCG. She has just been named the chief AI officer and counselor to the secretary at the U.S. Department of Treasury. So I'm really interested in kind of what she might be doing as chief AI strategy officer and counselor to the secretary at the Department of Treasury. So
that would be interesting. I hadn't really considered it going in that direction.
But hey, congratulations to her. Very interesting. But I mean, what I'm saying, this is really interesting that you bring this up, Lee, because even though most people see Silicon Valley as the heart of tech, right? VC investments, all these sorts of things. I had really interesting conversations in Chile and several other countries where I've been traveling with top tech leaders across the globe, including Silicon Valley. And they said something to me. They said, at this moment, the tech center has moved quite a bit to DC as the center of a lot, like in a way that it had never been, right? All these tech billionaires are all buying houses here. They're setting up shop, not only lobbying teams. Yeah, they've always had giant lobbying teams. Those are much bigger. But I think you're starting to see a bigger moment in technology here in DC from an AI standpoint, from a crypto standpoint. You're going to see Roblox has offices here. To me, it has been interesting to see deep tech people coming to DC more often, moving to DC, because in some ways, some of that center of power and gravity has moved here in some ways. The VC money still remains in Silicon Valley. I think we can all agree on that.
Right. That's the thing is like, landscape-wise, it's not big enough to house this type of like talent. It's not the next Silicon Valley. It's not even about the technology.
It's a top tech market, believe it or not. It's actually one of the top 4 tech markets.
Because of the money.
And then you've got the Amazon second headquarters here. There's a lot of different things. I think tech is going to become a much bigger part of the DC ecosystem,
It absolutely is. And it's a little frightening when you kind of like put it into perspective, because like it ultimately is lobbying on a completely different level, right? At the end of the day, it is about getting into the politics of it and making sure that certain things are regulated, certain things are not, and to maximize the profit of whatever that regulation may or may not provide for the company trying to lobby for it. And it very much is turning into almost a sports-like entertainment, sadly enough, where there's going to be some winners, there's going to be some losers. When I see things like the most recent copyright like restrictions or judgments coming through. So to like give people an update on that, there was a judge who ruled that Anthropic didn't break copyright law, but it still has to face trials over the pirated books. That in and of itself is very confusing because then they broke copyright law.
Yeah, wait a second. Yeah, that was confusing me. I was like, what?
And let's be real, it's not just Anthropic who's going through this. Meta is facing the exact same situation where they're
they both had wins. I feel like they both had wins last week from a legal standpoint.
They both had wins. Another federal judge had ruled in Meta's favor that a lawsuit alleging that their Llama AI was trained using copyrighted books. But it doesn't feel like it's over. It feels like that part's over, but then they're like, yeah, but you're not supposed to do that. Look, you either broke copyright law or you didn't.
You didn't. It's not, right? It's not gray. It's a yes or no question.
It's not gray. Copyright law is some of the most black and white law we have, and it's been established since the Sonny Bono Act. Yes, I was a copyright major in college. Fight me. This is a really weird moment to be like, okay, it kind of it maybe falls under fair use. So what you did was all right, but you did pirate those books. There's a larger role here when it comes to, here's what they're trying to do. They're trying to give the tech companies the fair use to do what they did without giving people access to pirating. That's all this is. They don't want people, average Joes, pirating movies, downloading books illegally, and nor should they.
No naps from AI?
No, they don't. They don't want this, right? And I get that. They're in the right to say you shouldn't be pirating content. Totally. But you can't just like wag your finger at the multi-billion-dollar company and be like, it doesn't.
No. Billionaire, yeah, $1 trillion worth company. You shouldn't do this. Regular consumer, do not do this. You will go to jail.
It's going to make for weird legal arguments in the future.
Well, we'll have to see. I will say something because I think if people are interested in understanding the Washington, D.C. ecosystem and AI and everything that's happening, I do have to mention someone I want to have on the podcast. I'm going to put it out there in the universe is Tammy Haddad. She is a power mover and shaker in D.C. and she runs the Washington AI Network, holds really amazing events. So yeah, if Tammy, I would love to have you on my podcast one day to talk about what you're doing with the AI network here in DC. It's funny because Tammy, I think a lot of people knew her. She used to run a big PR company. I don't know if she still does, but she used to host one of the most consequential brunches during the White House Correspondents' Dinner weekend. And now she has the AI network, and like her events are some of the most important events in DC when it comes to AI. So it's been really interesting to watch her build that network here in DC. And with more of technology becoming more important, I can see this increasing here.
It's just crazy, though, because all of these things are getting batted around. And I'm glad to hear that there's people having these conversations in D.C., but there's very little being said, at least externally, of how much misinformation is coming down the pipeline, how really difficult this is going to be in the future. I am convinced, listen to our listeners, we evidently can like predict the future. If you go...
We have a crystal ball, Lee. That's what we have. Cassandra.
I've got my mug of tea leaves here. I just drink my tea and then I look into it and we do the podcast. Yeah, I'm just, because a couple of months ago, I, out of the blue, am on YouTube and you can go back into the logs and hear this in a previous show. I don't know what the date is. Good luck, go find it. But I'm complaining because like the Diddy trial, which people are following right now, and right now has been adjourned, and then by the time this thing airs, there may already be a verdict. We don't know. This isn't about that. But the Diddy trial was when I first noticed that YouTube was getting flooded with AI speculative content.
AI slop. Let's call it what it is.
Slop. Garbage. Because the Diddy trial didn't allow cameras inside. So the best that you could have was the artist with the chalk, which why in the world we still do this? I don't know.
Why? It was so bad. I don't know who they were. God bless them, but like...
I don't even know why we still do that outside of tradition.
They really look like that now. Like I was very... just from that standpoint of the drawings. Anyway, whatever.
If we're all losing our job to AI, but that person with the chalkboard still somehow makes it, something is incredibly broken here because this seems like...
No cameras allowed.
This is the most archaic approach. Anyways, that's not what this is about. The YouTube videos that were coming up about this...
Oh my gosh.
It looked like a photo. It wasn't real. And so my YouTube feed was flooded with all of this stuff. Now, just now, articles are starting to rise, and there was a really interesting one by The Guardian.
I sent that to you when I saw it.
You sent it, yeah.
Oh my God.
Talking about how AI-generated deepfakes about the Diddy trial has completely flooded YouTube. Here's the problem. It's also including fake depositions, fake court testimony, things that never happened, people who were never involved. Now their names are being dragged into this. It's misleading videos all the way through. It's spreading all over the place. In YouTube, Google said that they were supposed to be implementing AI technology to detect all of this and manage AI manipulated videos. And evidently it's not in there or it's not working. So all of this stuff is starting to call into question of like, okay, yes, you announced you're doing this. You said you're doing this, but is this in the better use case for the end user?
I don't know. It's a confusing world. That's why I think you should double down on human relationships are more important than ever.
No, I agree.
Right. That's why.
Did you see the Hertz article?
Whew, let's talk about that. I don't drive much. I'm going to be honest. I'm not renting a car at the airport, but my family has in the past. And it's like, you make sure that you look at the car so it doesn't have any scratches.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You walk the car. Everyone's done this. You fly. I fly into the airport.
Because it's a good story.
Yeah. So you fly into the airport. I think everyone who travels does this a little bit. You fly in the airport. You go, you rent your car. They hand you the keys. You do a walk around. I'm paranoid. I am an old paranoid man. I pull out my cell phone. I take pictures of everything. I take pictures of the odometer. I'm so paranoid that I take pictures of the gas tank, but also like show the surroundings so they know I took it at the airport. Like all of this stuff, right? I've never actually had to use any of this. But you do this because you just don't know what's going to happen. And these are big companies. And if you damage something, blah, 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 blah. You don't want to be held reliable. Hertz, now this is not at every location. Hertz Rental Car, they've implemented an AI-powered vehicle inspection scanner. This is from a company called UVI, and it's at a few airport locations, not all of them, but the car basically goes through a scanner, which instantly detects minor damages like small scuffs and
Oh my gosh.
marks and things like that. It's a little intense to the point where some people are getting bills for like the tire scuffs.
How do you control for that? Like, that's the thing. Like, if I'm renting a car in Orlando to go to Disney World, I'm going to drive that puppy. And like, well, I'm not, whoever I'm with is going to drive it. But anyway, like, how do you control for regular wear and tear of renting a car? Like, I understand if it has like a giant dent or something, but
No, this is a very interesting article.
I mean, come on.
This article is so
Wear and
interesting.
tear.
One customer that they had talked to said that they were charged $440 for a scuff on the wheel. Now, I was like, okay, well, how bad is this scuff? Then I saw the photo. Lord have mercy. It is barely noticeable. It is ridiculous. This is just kind of where I don't want to say leniency, but it's almost like it just goes too far. It just goes too far. You're renting a car. There's going to be wear and tear.
Yeah, great. I love the use of AI for stuff, but I don't approve of this use of AI. Like, I think this is ridiculous.
Now, this very well could be a scenario where the market does balance it out. I'm going to be hesitant of renting a car from any place that utilizes an AI scanner to scan the car after I get it back. I want to see that printout before I take the car if you're doing it.
You're not leaving till they give you the printout, Keeper. I know you. You'll be like,
It just doesn't feel right. But even then, okay, you're parallel parking in Los Angeles. You're going to scuff a tire. It's going to happen. That doesn't need to result in a $450 bill. It's just those moments where sometimes, like, just because you can, I don't know if you should.
yeah. I don't know. But let's do this, Lee. Let's go on break, and then we'll come back. We'll talk about some hardware news and a lot more AI and gaming.
This message is brought to you by Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. And this is more than an ad. This is an invitation to be part of the stories the world can't stop watching, to connect with moments that dominate the conversation, to participate in culture, not just advertise around it. With the most sought-after IP, passionate audiences, and an advanced AI-powered foundation, WBD advertising transforms attention into influence and impressions into outcomes. This is innovation. This is impact. This is opportunity. This is Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. Visit advertising.wbd.com to learn more.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bull spend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think unpaid bills were just part of it. Ugh. But batch payments? Wow. Automated accounts payable? Even better. All in one place. That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No bills in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply. Business is booming. But you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search XERO for your free trial. Conditions apply.
Hi, everyone. So we're back from break. What shall we talk about now? There's the Meta new hardware. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, there's a lot of hardware from Meta that we do need to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Last week, I hesitated talking about this because I didn't know if it was real.
We thought it was a rumor, right? You sent me the picture.
I sent a photo, which for me, it leaked on Reddit and it looked legit. But I've got friends who work at Meta, so I hit them up and I'm like, hey, is this real? And legitimately, they're like, that's the first I've ever seen this. So for those who are wondering...
Or maybe they're under NDA lane. They just can't say, but hey.
I got some good friends who would at least send me like a winky emoji. You know what I mean? Like something. But no, legitimately was like, this is the first I've even ever heard of this. So we talked about in the past, Meta has a history of partnering sometimes with Microsoft. Xbox, owned by Microsoft, has seemingly, and I'm not saying this is what's happening, I'm just saying this is what it seems like, really pulled back on the console wars a lot and have become more of, and I think this is from them buying Activision and Blizzard, have become more of a game publishing company. So out of nowhere, they shadow drop the Quest 3S Xbox edition.
Which is like the coolest thing.
It is very cool. And it is in a 3S, which is the cheaper model. But I've used the 3S, and I'll tell you, as someone who I've had the 3 for a very long time, I really can't see the difference. And maybe it's the glasses, I don't know. But if I use the 2, I can't tell the difference. The 3S is a fantastic piece of hardware for the price. The Xbox edition sells for $399, but you're getting a lot for it. You have a customized, for the first time ever, Xbox version of it. It's black with green highlights, looks really kind of pretty cool. Very much not in the Meta aesthetic, very much in the Xbox aesthetic. It comes with not only motion controllers, but it also comes with a Xbox gamepad like controller, because it comes with a subscription for Xbox Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
And you can play your Xbox games with a huge, infinitely large screen inside, well, not infinitely, but massive screen inside of your VR space and play through. And it works really well. It also comes with the Elite strap, which is a nice upgrade.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
The Quest 3 and 3S.
I didn't even think about the Elite strap, but that makes sense, especially if you're in there playing games. That makes sense.
Yeah, the Elite strap in and of itself is worth the investment, and they're not cheap. So where $399 is more than the 3S normally is, you are getting more than that in value from that transition. It's just quite impressive. So much so that it sold out in like a day. It's gone.
I wonder how many units. Did they say how many units?
They didn't say, but that's kind of par for the course for Meta. They never really put those numbers out, but it can't be small. And it was something that as soon as it was out and confirmed, I saw it kind of pop up all over the place. It's wild because it very much feels like an Xbox release without it being, it's a console.
Yeah.
But it's a console partnership. And from the history of Xbox, I've never seen them do a console partnership like this. This is pretty intense.
I will say, so that's interesting that you bring that up, because I mean, the Switch 2 killed all records. Like the Nintendo Switch 2 has been like a bestseller. So, so that, like, I will tell you, my son, because I got him one in Chile, he loves the Switch 2. He loves it. He's one of the few kids in his school that whose parents actually were crazy and got him a Switch 2 that quickly. But he is raving about it. He loves that thing. There's games that he can only play on that. I mean, I don't know.
It's a fantastic piece of hardware. It genuinely is. But as we've both said this in previous, conversations, the Switch 2 is the competitor, in my opinion, for the Quest, like the VR headsets for Meta. If Meta had to say, well, who's our main competitor? It's not PlayStation VR. It's the Quest. It's very much the same age group, same demographic who wants it, even though they're very different, like they're different products. And now that a 3S is $299 or $399 for the Xbox edition, but you can't get a Switch 2 for less than $450, that bodes pretty well.
But it depends, because my son has not asked for one. His friends are not talking about it. Maybe because they're
really?
Younger. Yeah, no, this has not come up. They're all they all want to Switch 2. Like
the Switch 2 is pretty great. The new Mario Kart has taken up hours of my life at this point. I will say, in Switch news, it has been an interesting week or two, because they've had to, due to hardware limitations of what's available on SD cards, they've had to go to a system that's called key cards. So all Nintendo first-party games, when you buy the game on a cartridge, the full game is on a cartridge. But to third-party vendors, especially those who are making very large games, those may not, when you buy the cartridge, it doesn't actually have the game on the cartridge. You put it in the Switch, and then it downloads the game. This is not popular. This is wildly unpopular. This is so unpopular that certain third-party game publishers have openly said that their sales for the Switch 2 on the physical market have underperformed their lowest expectations.
That's so crazy.
Because it doesn't make sense to buy a game that doesn't have the game on it when you have like an eShop and you can just download if you're just going to have to download it anyways. Now, their argument is you can take this key card and you can like resell it or trade it or give it to a friend or whatever. And I guess that makes sense, but that's not really why people buy those cartridges.
Yeah.
And it has kept me from buying certain third-party games
That's
because
really interesting.
I don't really want a key card.
Yeah.
I know that eventually the servers turn off and then I won't be able to download that game again. And so you buy it on the cartridge if you want it in your library because you want to be able to own the thing that you purchased. Now, that's not important to everybody. And for those people, they will use the eShop and they'll download it. But it is interesting to see the hardware sales be through the roof, but the third-party software sales
That's so interesting.
Pretty low. It's an interesting hardware situation because they're not producing a large enough cartridge for the space that modern games are demanding. Like, you really can't get the next Call of Duty will not fit on a Nintendo cartridge. So it has to be a key card due to physics, or they need to actually spend the money and make a larger cartridge, which is what I think they should do. Good Lord. Come on, Nintendo. You got more money than you know what to do.
You can do this, Nintendo. Please. So I will give a shout out because we are on the pod to my son, who is a Nintendo Switch owner and a gamer. He went to computer science camp last week. And at the end of the week, they had a competition where the kids did all sorts of stuff. There's a boy who coded something with a robot. There was another young man who did a chat bot. My son he coded this whole like choose your own adventure game with so many different scenarios. And he won first place.
All right.
I was like, yay!
That's awesome.
I'm so proud of him. So proud. So it runs in the family, I guess. But yeah, kudos to my son for winning first place in his computer science camp.
That it's people are saying like the development side of it is feeling a little bit of turmoil, but I think that there's still a very bright future for software development. I think a lot of that's a bit fear-mongering. Yes, you can vibe code up to a certain extent, some pretty interesting things, and that's great. But did you?
You still need do you want to get into the news?
Yeah, I want to talk about this because the number's crazy.
Because I think this is a perfect segue, Lee. Like, I set it up here.
This is a perfect segue. So an article came out about there's some infighting between Meta and OpenAI. Sam Altman went on a podcast and was kind of putting it all out there that Meta is kind of poach hiring from OpenAI. Now, listen, this sounds bananagrams to the point where I just don't think that this number can possibly be true. But I'm just saying the number that was batted around was hiring at $100 million signing bonus in a year contract for developers, like certain high.
I thought the whole comp package was $100 million, not the signing bonus. Because I can definitely see $100 million for a whole comp package if they really, really want them.
Let me see here.
Yeah, I think that includes the signing bonus, stock, a whole bunch of
Okay, so here's what it says. Zuckerberg has been particularly aggressive in his approach, offering $100 million signing bonuses, $100 million signing bonuses, and year one compensation to some OpenAI staffers, according to comments made by Altman on a podcast with his brother.
That's interesting. So it's the bonus and the compensation, which could actually be also stock, right?
Could
Share
be.
stock. Yeah.
But $100 million.
But yeah, this is the funny part. You and I were just talking about this. $100 million, you're trying to get these people over.
Right.
You're trying to win the super intelligence race or AGI race as well. But then you're talking about how most of your code is being done by AI. So you still need these humans?
Yeah. There's something about this doesn't add up, because these companies are saying, oh, so much of our code is actually written by AI now. But you're out here dishing out $100 million to bring on a developer. Something's not getting written by your AI code at $100 million. That's all I'm saying.
If an actual human's work is worth $100 million, that's interesting. It's a very interesting perspective. I mean, and you've got them, and this is the interesting thing. I think it reminded me of the mockumentary, the movie that they made about BlackBerry.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like scenes where the BlackBerry team goes to Silicon Valley to poach people, I think from like Google and Apple or other places. And like some of the salaries were nuts, but maybe they were 10 million. I don't think it were 100 million. I don't think it was 100 million. Like that number is pretty crazy. But
Yeah, and that's from a Wired article, so I have to like kind of say this is what was said. Now, again, this was Sam Altman on a podcast. This is not like actual numbers out of Meta, so is there exaggeration here? I don't know. I have no idea. But there are some very large numbers getting batted around right now in this space. I mean, even to the point where like Salesforce's CEO has come out and said that the company, like half of their work is
50% of the code, right? 50% of the code is AI generated or something like that?
No. They're claiming that AI now performs approximately 50% of the tasks across the company.
Oh, so it's not just the code. Interesting.
So their CEO is saying that for Salesforce, AI is handling everything from sales forecasting to customer engagement. And this is maybe some like corporate speak, freeing employees for more strategic duties.
Hence, we're laying off more people. I don't know. I love Mark.
That hasn't happened. That's not what's effectively happened yet. But and then I also question if like 50% of Salesforce tasks are being done by AI right now.
What are those tasks though? Right? Is it writing an email? Is it like what? I guess getting under the hood of what the tasks are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because I mean, technically,
I've
I've got AI bugging me all the time to rewrite my email like it's the new Clippy. Like, dude, I can write an email. Leave me alone. And then today I signed in my Gmail, which I've got a company Gmail account for my own business. And all of a sudden I've got a pop-up in my Gmail saying, we can generate video for your email. I have never in the history of my life wanted to put video in an email, and I don't want to get video in an email. More or less, I definitely don't want generated video in an email. What are we doing?
Okay, so if you send me a strange video of like who knows what, I'll be like, Lee's playing with this feature. Let's see.
That was one of those things where it's like, I don't want it.
Why do I need this? Right? You're like,
I don't like emails that have too much more than like 2 paragraphs in it, let alone a video that I now need to watch in an email.
Now, everyone, please email Lee a long email with multiple paragraphs. Video.
No.
Yeah.
No.
11 Labs also said, by the way, on a podcast that a big percentage of their code was AI generated as well. So we're going to continue to hear about like AI doing a percentage of the tasks or generating a large percentage of the codes.
11 Labs is one of those companies that I like to follow. I think that they're doing really interesting things. They just launched 11 AI, which is a new text-to-speech platform. For those who don't know, 11 Labs wholly focuses on AI speech integration, voice prints, things like that. This really seems like a platform that is going after where like Siri and like the Amazon Echo with Alexa and Hey Google, where those all kind of left off, because we have had a weird technological gap between, we had like 3 voices about 5 years ago that everyone was talking about. People built companies off of these things. And then all of a sudden they kind of went away because everyone decided that AI is the new hotness, for rightly so. And now 11 Labs is saying, yeah, but you still need a voice in a lot of these applications. So this new 11 AI, which I think is going to be shockingly good, is now launching. And we'll see where it goes from there. But as we get into like wearable tech, that voice integration is just going to be so much more needed.
And let's talk about wearable tech, because I think, we haven't really talked about the Meta glasses with Oakley and Prada a little bit.
We talked about it last
a little bit, but we
week.
didn't talk about the specs, the field of view, like the 4K. Like this is these are pretty awesome glasses, to be honest.
Yes. So
I want some. I want the Prada ones.
I don't know the Prada specs, but I do have some of the Oakley specs, and I'm shocked to say, because like they're glasses. It seems like at launch, the Oakleys are going to have a tech boost over
the Ray-Bans.
Over the Ray-Bans. Now, maybe they get the Ray-Bans to catch up before this happens, but the Oakley glasses that are being produced by Meta are said to have double the battery life of the Ray-Bans, and they capturing 3K video. Now, why 3K? I don't know, but the fact that it's able to do that inside of glasses that are functionally the same size as the Ray-Bans, I really want to know how they doubled the battery life.
Yeah.
That's the part. That's always the part that like physics gets in the way
Huh.
So how are you doubling the battery life in a pair of glasses without making them heavier?
Or
without
overheating.
putting a bigger
Yeah.
Right. So something is happening in their tech stack, right? In their hardware stack inside of these glasses that Ray-Ban does not currently have. I can't fathom that this doesn't get adopted across the board. So hopefully even the Ray-Bans come eventually with double the battery life and 3K video, but that's pretty bonkers.
I'm sure we're going to see some really amazing hardware. I mean, I continue to say, as much as he's putting $100 million signing bonuses and stuff, Meta's in its hardware era. It wants to control the hardware so it can control the data that the newer models will be trained on.
Let me say this. It's the one thing they're very good at.
What? The hardware?
Hardware.
Oh,
Meta
yeah.
has
Yeah,
proven
now
to be.
they are.
I'm going to say Meta has been
Not always.
fantastic at hardware for
Portal?
a long time. Portal worked. Portal as hardware.
It worked, but was it a success? Like, I don't
No. It wasn't. Portal's hardware was fantastic. The software was problematic. I'm going to go as far to say the Quest headsets hardware is fantastic. Their shop, their eShop, their software is hot garbage right now. I'm sorry, Meta. I don't mean to hurt your feelings. It's true. And I know you know it. We just don't know why you're so bent on it being bad. So there is a disconnect between the hardware and the software. But the hardware Meta has been putting out for years has been always really solid.
Well, I think they do have a chance now to really corner that market, to really own a market in the hardware space that they haven't owned before.
Yeah.
I mean, they own the VR market, yes, but the VR market is not as big as the eyeglasses market. Let's be honest here, right?
No.
So I think they have a chance to to really own that, especially with all the new devices that are coming our way, the family of devices that are coming, and I don't know.
And I'm so glad they have images. I'll link to this on our Substacks, this article, but they have images of the Oakleys, and I actually really like them. I'm so glad they look like regular sunglasses as opposed to kind of like we all have a weird, I think, late 90s mental image of what Oakleys used to look like.
Oh, Oakleys, I do. I'm like, I'm not wearing some Oakleys.
Where it's like you're going to get some Oakleys and maybe like
I'm Prada,
a tribal
I'm Prada all
tattoo
the way.
around your arm or something like that. You know what I mean? Go listen to some Sublime.
Yeah. Watch me wear some Oakleys next week. Who knows, right? No.
But these actually look good.
They
These
look good.
these look fantastic. I would actually wear these. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised to see the spec bump. That'll be very interesting.
Amazing. So let's see. Anything else we want to cover before we hit out?
If I say anything more about AI, I'm just going to finally depress myself into the ground too far. I can't do it. We'll have more AI. We're going to have probably some AI answers to some of the questions that we asked next week from this week. So
next week, we're going to have a special shorter episode. It is going to include, I think, some snippets from past interviews. I had a short interview that I did with a humanoid robot in Singularity Summit, Chile. So you'll be listening to that. I'll be asking her about love. So not everyone gets to interview a humanoid robot. I think for my next trick, everyone, for my next experiment, I'm going to try to go on a date with a robot.
Like a physical robot.
Yeah.
Not a Roomba.
Not a Roomba. No, I don't want to date a Roomba. No. I want to go on a date with a humanoid robot.
Where?
Trying to figure that out. Maybe Japan? Maybe
I know,
Japan.
but
if not, I'll definitely go on a date with a humanoid robot in Africa.
You go to you do dinner in a movie. I don't know if you do dinner in a movie with a robot.
Maybe it's Megan.
Megan
2.0. I don't want to do a dinner in a movie with Megan, which I'm actually going to go to the movie theater to see. But yeah, for my next trick, everyone, I will attempt to go on a date with a robot and not a Roomba.
I look forward to seeing how that goes.
But yeah, next week we'll have some snippets from my talk in Chile, as well as that interview with the humanoid robot, since Lee and I will both be out on vacation. But we'll have a fun little episode for you guys to listen to that'll have some interesting information.
Yep. And so before we do go, I have it's summertime. I'm very much a creature of habit. Like as soon as music hits season, I get really into it. I've been listening to an album released from 1967 by a band called The Turtles. You may or may not remember that name, but you definitely remember their single Happy Together. It's their third studio album. It's best remembered for the title track, but there's a lot more to this album. I personally like She'd Rather Be Me, and A Guide for the Married Man is super interesting as a song. Big harmonies. It's a summer sunshine pop vibe, just something to kick it off. A lot of that summer nostalgia. That's what I've been listening to this week. Cathy, what are you into this week?
I just got a pretty interesting book that someone from my Tech Magic WhatsApp group, and by the way, we should definitely include a QR code to that in our Substacks for more people to join. A really interesting book that someone recommended that I read. So cover your little one's ears if you must for a second. It's called 6 in a Bed, The Future of Love from Sex Dolls and Avatars to Polyamory by Roanne Van Voorst. So that will be my holiday reading. So just
Goodness.
light reading.
Goodness, the end of the podcast just got weird and steamy at the same time.
I'm going on a date with a robot. What do you expect? I'm attempting to go on a date with a robot.
Is that the manual?
No, I will be a gentlewoman. The gentleman. I'll be a gentleman to the robot.
Wow. All right. On that note, thanks for tuning into Tech Magic, where we always invite you to come for the tech and stay for the magic.
The weird magic? I don't know. The weirdness.
I'm Lee Kebler here with Cathy Hackl. Special thanks as always to Adweek for now for bringing this show to you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, and how could you not, please leave us a review. Let us know your thoughts. I'm sure you have plenty of them now. We'd love to connect with you, or robots, whichever. Just search for Tech Magic, Cathy Hackl or me, Lee Kebler. You'll find us, and also be sure to check out our new Substacks. Cathy's will be packed full of insights discussed here on the show, and articles and snippets about weird books that she's about to start reading. You will not want to miss that. I've subscribed. It's worth looking into. Mine, if you search for Lee Kebler, you'll find my Substack. It will always have links to all of the stories that we covered here today and behind-the-scenes clips that you may have missed. Just search for us on Substack or on LinkedIn. You will find us, and we will be back next week.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
When everything is moving all at once, your workforce, your tech stack, your business, you don't need more tools. You need one solution. That's why Paylocity built a single platform to connect HR, finance, and IT with AI-driven insights and automated workflows that simplify the complex and power what's next. Because when everything comes together in one place, growth comes easy. Experience one place for all your HCM needs. Start now at Paylocity.com/one.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.